Okay, well here's the long-awaited update. So let's start down here at Sewell, and we can see some things have happened down here. I started roughing in some of the structures down here that will go here. Now this is the Babcock store, which is in the wrong spot. It should be farther down that way, but there's a backdrop in my way, and it was kind of a neat structure, and I thought I would include it here on this other side here. This is one of the few structures in the layout that are kind of truncated. This is a full side here toward the viewer, and that is a full side, but you can see the back when there was shortened, and the back will be at a bit of an angle. I didn't originally make it completely square, but then it was down here and squared up, and it just didn't have the flow, nice visual interest to it. So over here is the lumber office. There's an awning that will go on right here, and this will get covered. All these structures are going to get covered with some outer material, whether it be wood, like this will be wood. They're all actually wood, but they're a different style of wood on each one. I'll use real wood on all of them, but the 3D printed substructures allow me to have a sub wall to actually work on, knowing that when I'm done, they'll all be nice and square and tight fitting. It saves me from having to build, like on this structure here, I actually cut it out of illustration board. But this is a really nice way to do it with the 3D printed stuff. I also 3D printed all the correct windows for these, so every structure here has windows that were custom made. They follow the drawing that was in the Mans Creek book, and this will have a porch right here, but I'll get these all built probably starting this winter. I'll kind of work my way through Sewell here. You can see some flat cars down here with some giant blocks of wood on those. These are just some 2x2s I had left over that I cut that for a while are just going to represent lumber loads, so I'm not hauling empty flat cars down and up the grade. Eventually these will be replaced with nice wood loads, but this will at least get me hauling something down here. As we move down through here, you can see that the fascia has been going in and it's been painted black, and it actually gets painted all the way up to the ceiling, and even the ceiling I painted black up in here. So this has really made a dramatic visual impact here. Another thing I did is I got the push buttons installed for the turnouts here, and these are just momentary push buttons. They connect to the hair decoders that I have on the turnouts, and what happens is that all you do is push it once, and then the turnout throws and it changes to the other color. So as long as they're green, then they're on the normal, what I would call the straight route. I'll do a little video on showing you how I make those for anybody that's interested. And you might be thinking, well, if you have decoders on your turnouts, why do you want push buttons on there? Well, it kind of goes back to the fact that when I first bought the decoders, I wasn't going to have push buttons. I was going to use the throttle to select the turnout and throw it, thinking that that would add more time to operating. But for a lot of people that were kind of test operating for me, they found that more annoying than to have a button. The other thing is, one of the key features I'm using the decoder for is actually for the auto throw feature. So all my turnouts have a little trigger rail. When a train is coming this way, the inner rail here, when it hits a certain spot, it actually trips the turnout to throw in that route. And the reason why I wanted to have that is, especially around the dump trestle or anywhere around loading, is you tend to be focused on the car and you're not looking ahead of where the locomotive's going, and it's easy to run through a turnout. So now what'll happen is you can't really run through a turnout. It'll just throw it. You can run to a track you're maybe not supposed to be on, but the locomotive or the cars now won't just dump over onto the ground. That's really my main reason for putting those in. If I didn't already have 12 or so of those from the previous layout, maybe I wouldn't have thought that was worth it, but since I was about halfway there, I just continued to use them. As you can see here in Sewell, here's one of the shelves I built for the operators. There's one of these at every location that they're switching. They're all built from a similar design. They're all but one. The one at Mine 7 is a little different just because of the way that aisle's configured, but they all have a 3-pocket card box. There's a little kind of auxiliary shelf up there to put some different things in, and we'll go through what some of those things are later. And then there's a work shelf. Now, originally I had designed this to be angled because I thought you would want to have your cars at an angle here. But what I found out kind of on an accident before I made that angle in there was I was sitting here one day and I threw a car card down on the top of this thing, and I looked down and I thought, I actually can see that a lot better standing here than I could if that was angled up. You know, the tops kind of get cut off and I have to get down and look at the car number, where here I can see the whole car card. So I decided to not put the angled piece in there and just leave them all flat like this. And if you're wondering what the height of this is, it's about probably my waist level. I made them all out of just regular off-the-shelf lumber. This is a 1x6 pine here. This is 1x6. I'll actually throw up a little drawing if you want to see the dimensions I use for all these. And then I put a LED strip of lights up underneath these to shine down on here. I put the color changing ones on here. And originally I had them set to white, but I felt like if I ever did night operations, the white would be a little too bright, like all the card boxes would glow. So right now I actually have them set to blue. Kind of makes a little bit of a weird look, but you can read the cards pretty well underneath that blue light. So for the moment, I'm going to leave it that way. But I can change it. They're all hooked up to the same control box, so they'll all change at one time. As I've been bringing the scenery in here, I've been blending this kind of all in, and you can see now how the Coke office is going to kind of blend in here. There will be that road that kind of comes down. You can kind of see it drawn in here. And it's going to kind of come up at an angle here off the layout, of course. And then I've blended this down towards the engine house here, and then the scenery now is up high here, sloping in, and then it kind of comes down and levels off. And then you can see a road will be crossing the tracks right here and going down past that little dwelling down there. So we'll kind of work our way around here. Not much has been going on this side. Still have to get finishing up my seams on the backdrop. I did add the front hill in right here, again, to bring the fascia in here. Here, this is kind of a different box here and shelf. I haven't painted this bottom piece yet. It's not even actually glued in yet, but this one is different because I didn't want to have anything too low right here because the bottom of the benchwork is actually down here. So what I did is I took advantage of a space in between the risers for the road bed up here down to the bottom. And I just set a box back in here. It also has lights in here. And really what we're doing here is you're just setting your car cards here, and you're just kind of following through to see which ones you're going to dump right here. So I didn't really think I needed anything fancy. We're not setting anything out here, so I don't need a card box here. Right across on the other side of the aisle here, there is another shelf here with card boxes, and those card boxes, we'll explain those a little later. But so you could use that shelf behind you if you wanted to. Over here are the controls for the dump trestle. This is not screwed in at the moment here. I think I'm going to redo this though, because this trim adjustment knob is a little too big for the switches here. Although I do have another one. I'm going to see how it fits in there to be a little smaller. But what this trim knob does is it actually helps me fine tune the speed of the doors. What happens is some of the cars come in and they have slight differences to how fast or slow the doors open because the motors aren't really the best quality motor. And so what I would do is if a door was not opening, what I'd do is I'd bump this up just a little bit and I'd see if the door would then open, and normally it would, but then the next car would come and that would be too fast. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna put a little trim pot in every car and go through all of them and set them to the exact same time. And then I should be able to set this and leave it forever. These switches here, what they do is they turn on and off the which bin you're dumping into. So right now they're set to the left, so they activate the contacts and the blowdown on that bin. And if they're set to the right, then that bin and blowdown system is activated. I have to do that because, you know, as a train comes in here, if end cars there might be another car spotted over those contacts, and then if I didn't separate them, both doors would be opening and closing at the same time. So this push button here, this will be eventually hooked up to the air blowdown. Earlier you saw I had some solenoid valves that'll be put on the air lines, and this will just activate that little blowdown. And then these, of course, are the door open and the door closed. This too has lights up in here to kind of keep this highlighted in here, and there'll be maybe some instructions here. I don't know. I haven't got that far yet. By the way, on all these locations, I started working out these little schematic maps. Eventually, I'll print these out on black paper with white lines, and somewhere they'll be posted. I'm not sure if they'll be up here or somewhere on the front here. But what these do is it tells the location and names of tracks. It also gives the turnout numbers. Eventually, on these turnout buttons here, I will have a number on those that'll correspond with the number on the turnout or on the track schematics. If we follow along here, the lift bridge, I temporarily finally have a magnet up in here to help hold that up. I also put a little switch in back here that I haven't painted yet. That switch, it's kind of hard to see from the front of the layout, so it's pretty well hidden. What that does is when that lift bridge goes up, it will activate a throw rod that'll come up in here and block that track off. I used to have that on the other layout, and I want to put that feature back in here because keep alive capacitors can have a train run for a really long time. And if I try to make a dead section here, it actually could still roll through that whole section and go off the end, unless of course I make the dead section way up here, but then a train can't really advance down here and wait. They'll have to stay farther up the line. So I did add a backdrop in here. This board actually had to unscrew. I screwed it in here to clamp it tight in that corner while the glue dries, and I haven't taken it out yet, but that'll eventually get painted, of course, blue. And you can see now here with this fascia, and I actually have some of the curtains going in. I hope to have all the curtains in by the time I made this video, but it's been a longer process than I actually thought it was going to be. Some of that is because I changed my mind on this curtain. Originally, I was going to have it set deeper in here, like 6 inches in, but it didn't look right in these areas where it came down. It kind of had a strange look when you looked from the end. So I decided in this area to move them forward. And then the problem with that is that on this particular shelf that I was kind of an afterthought that I added down below the layout here, it required this to be all cut around and clips to be put all the way around there to keep that tight. And then while we're back on the subject here, the reason why I put some card boxes here is because there are some sidings up in here. Eventually there'll be a trestle built, out across here. Not that it'll be used for dumping cars, but it will be a remnant of a way they used to dump cars. For me, I'll use it as a place to spot cars or to, separate a train if you need some tracks to work. And then of course there's the back track back there. So there's a chance that maybe cars would get set out here for some reason. I don't know what reason yet, but I figured, go ahead, I'll make a box here and we'll have set outs and pickup boxes. So as you saw earlier, of course, I did the base scenery up the hill here. Next up is I'm gonna actually start to do some finished scenery here for a photo that I'm gonna need to take. Here you can see the access hole I had to make here so I could put the scenery up there. That'll eventually have a cover on it and that'll get all blended in. That'll be like a lift out piece right there. There is a small kind of Easter egg trestle up in there for anybody that kind of goes peering deeper in there. They'll get to see a scene back there. I really like how this hill comes up right here, separates that track from this track. Eventually there'll be the water tank here. That was that tank trestle here. This is all looking a lot nicer here. It's kind of fun to see that it actually looks like it's going to be a trestle. Up here, I didn't cover that because I'm still unsure of how I'm going to put the rocks on there, if I'm going to use foam rocks or plaster rocks. I will probably cut that trestle out right there so I can put the rocks up in there. So it's going to mean taking the main line out of service for a while. So I'm just kind of waiting on that because we're going to operate it for a little bit so I can fine tune the layout. Another thing I added here finally was this piece right here. And what this is this is a removable section of fascia. It simply just sits in there. So I could take this out of here and get at that track up there for maintenance. And then it just slides in there and sits in its spot. Okay, if we come up this aisle here, one of the things you'll notice here is there's a handle here now, and there's actually one down there. There's one of these at the top of every stairs. And the reason why those are there is I had an older friend over who was having a little difficulty at the stairs and was looking for, I was noticing he was looking for something to grab onto. And I thought, maybe I should consider some kind of handle there. And then I actually injured my knee and I was looking for a handle. So I decided to try some of these handles here and I actually really like them. They're just really nice to grab onto and kind of pull yourself up to this floor. Plus, the handles are positioned at the top of every step here so that what's really nice if you're unsure, as this person was, where the edge of the stairs was, as long as you keep your hand on here, you're right at the top of the stairs and you can sit and watch this scene without worrying about sidestepping off the platform. Coming down here, we've got a feature here I'll talk about in a minute. Not much is going on here. This is really kind of a neat scene here now, the way this looks in here with everything painted black. I ended up actually just painting this whole entire wall here black. I didn't really know how to make the transition in here. So I decided, well, I'll just paint the whole thing black. I have some trim work to do around this door, and there'll be a curtain down inside of there. I also am going to put trim pieces around here once the carpet's finally installed. Coming into Clifftop, you can kind of see no curtains yet. They're still in the works, but everything's painted black. Also have 2 sets of boxes in here. I haven't finished that thing yet. That's still kind of sitting in a slot I cut for it. But I have a box and a shelf, and you can see a bunch of throttles sitting on here. But there's a box and a shelf and card boxes for all the things, like this would be for cars being set up for the car shop or cars being set up for the company store. And over on this side, this one I'm using for the mine that's over here and for the strip tipple that's over here. It's probably overkill. Probably don't need that many boxes, but I figure you can never have too many shelves. Again, it gives me a nice place to store. Like these are locomotive cards. They can sit on here. Again, I'll talk about those in a moment. I did get another throttle. This is that UWT 50. I thought I'd at least try one of these, and I really like these. I think my next one might be another one of those. I haven't decided really what my next one's going to be. I like them both for different reasons. And as we come around in Landisburg here, another handle right here we can grab onto. And of course down here I also have 2 boxes and shelves. And the reason why I have 2 here is that this set of card boxes would be for the coal tipple, for that, and that siding right there, and any cars that are in the yard. And then this box is specifically just for the drying yard. And you can see I actually have a schematic here that I'm working on for the whole layout of the drying yard. And then over here, there's actually stuck it up here to see how I'd like the way it looked, but that's the Landisburg yard schematic. The reason why I put 2 boxes in here is because sometimes there might be a person working over here in the drying yard while another operator comes up in here to either set out or pick up anything in the in this kind of storage yard, or maybe even work the coal tipple. And I thought it'd be just nice to separate those 2 activities. Again, probably overkill, but I'd rather have more space than less space. Did start working on the tipple that's going to be in here. This will be an operating tipple. You can see the bin and the conveyor belts going in there. This front bin is actually going to be for like the rock that they would take off. Back one is barely visible in there. That's the actual coal chute right there. So this conveyor belt dumps into a hole up here, and then there's just a little fill hole that I can put some rock in. I eventually want to have the rock be a feed product that we load into little side dump cars. This bin will be all hidden up inside the tipple structure. I'll just simply remove the roof and fill that. I did have in my Facebook post that I had a screw conveyor, which I built, and I was going to cut a hole in the wall and make the bin on the other side of that backdrop there. But then I thought, for one thing, there's the way the bracing was going to work out, that the conveyor, the screw conveyor would have had to go right close to where that track is, and it was going to be hard to hide it. And then the other thought I had was, I just don't need to load that much coal here. There's about 10 or 15 cars worth of coal right there, and that's more than enough for an operating session on this little teeny tipple. In the previous update I did, I just had some text on the screen that talked about extending the layout here. What I did is I added this other track in here to come down and have this locomotive service area here. And so what I did is the original layout ended like right about here. So I added to the layout a few more inches so that there wasn't, so this track didn't get too close to the corners here. And the reason why I did this was I wanted to have a continuous 30-inch radius all the way around here and into here. I was going to try to make like a switchback into here and then come up in here, but it just really looked too strange. I just thought I'd just add another small little trestle there crossing the stream. and then put another turnout just a little bit on the grade here. As you can see here too, I don't know if you remember some of the earlier updates, this was actually down. I was gonna have the stream come along this edge right here, and I never really liked it that much, so I ended up filling this all in, and you can see now I built the fascia up higher, and then it's gonna blend with the, it's gonna go uphill here, and then blend with that scenery. That piece that wraps around the backdrop there will eventually come and kind of tie in over here. I did add I don't know if you'd call this a fascia. It's kind of a piece here I originally was gonna have the layout end right there, but I like how this blocks your view when you're looking down here of the shelf that's back there. So I extended this out here. I actually double-sided this. I'll paint this the same color as the backdrop once I paint all this, and there'll be trees up in here to kind of hide that piece in there. But I like that being in there better than having that be cut off, where you can see where originally was going to be cut off at. So at the junction here, I decided to install my security cameras that I had from the other layout. The cameras were once used to monitor hidden track that used to go behind the furnace. And I thought here I could use them to monitor when the train goes through the backdrop right there. It actually comes out right here. And this track that curves this way is the one that goes into staging. And then if I go to this button here, there, now you can see this. So that's staging right there, and that's the end of staging. I am gonna get a third camera so that we can see the front of staging, but I figured at this point, it's better to see where you wanna pull up to and stop than it is to see you coming into staging, because you can kind of see it moving through. If you go here, oops, that's the volume button. There we go. You'll see it moving through here, and then as soon as it goes to the backdrop there, you can watch it come into here. It's hard to probably see, but I drew a line right there telling people where to stop the train at. From this point on, it's the sector plate that switches it over that front runaround track. This control box here is used to control the turnouts. If I go back here, so that turnout actually you can control from here. There's a light, whether it's, and I'll have labels on here, but this is for going to the woods, or you can push that button and change it, and then that's going to mine 7. What this is for is it tells you if the turnout inside of the staging that's through the backdrop here is set correctly. If that's turned and there's no light there, then you can't enter staging because it's set for the runaround. Not that it matters really too much that you go on one track or the other in there, but I like to enter on the back track because it's not as far, or it's not as close to the front edge of the layout as the one that's the runaround. The runaround track kind of comes real close to the front edge of the hidden staging, and I really don't want a train sitting on that. So I preferred if this was green and people entered in on the back track. And so really the thing will be, as long as both of these are green, you're aligned to go into the woods okay. And if you want to, if you're going to be going to mine 7, then you just hit that and that'll change it. And that one doesn't matter what it's set to. But I did it this way because if you're just going to go into the staging, you really don't need to go, you know, down and around the layout and up behind there just to watch it travel that little piece of track. And then I don't really want operators to go back over into the furnace room. So this is just a way to make sure that you can, you know, change this here, make sure those are aligned, and you can just stay right here and run that train right into staging. When you see it hit the stop line, then you're done. Then you can go back and do your other work. That train is going to be the logging train that will basically be open staged over in Landisburg. It'll just be a string of empty log cars that the Landisburg operator will get out in the morning. And so his first train out will basically come up, you know, from Landisburg. You'll come into the junction here, you'll take the mine 7 switch, and you'll watch it go here, and then you'll just look over here and make sure those 2 green lights are aligned, and then just watch the camera until you pull up and stop. If there was a case where there was an operator in there at mine 7, you don't have to like go in there and say, hey, can I get in there real quick? I need to watch my train go through this 3 feet of track. And then, or ask them, can you align my switches? You just look at these 2 here and you can align it. Also, when you're at the end of the session, when that train is loaded and coming out, you can see when it's ready because the logs will be on there. You'll get the clear to go, line up your 2 turnouts, and then you can just watch it proceed through here and then just wait for it to come out through there. and then you can take it on in to Landisburg. One other thing I've been working on, and this I've been doing with the help of Bob Sobel. He kind of helped me work on a circuit here he designed on a request. What I wanted to do is have a way to have these cards here. They're like a situation card. I don't have a lot of switching to do on this layout, so I decided to make a bunch of different situations that might arise, at different locations while operating a train. Kind of an extra fun factor. At first I thought, well, maybe I'd have like either an app that was a random number generator, and then maybe I'd say like, oh, if you get a number 1, then you got to draw a situation card, otherwise all of the numbers don't count. And I thought, no, I don't want people to have to get their phone out. Then I thought I could put maybe a 20-sided dice, inside the box here, and we could just roll it. And I thought, then the dice will get on the floor or get lost, or, it just didn't seem like it was the most elegant way to do it. So I asked Bob if there was a way we could do a circuit that would be kind of like a coin toss. However, I didn't want it to be a 50-50 coin toss. I wanted to be able to control the amount of, green meaning no situation, and when this light turns red, it means that you have to draw a situation card. And he came up with a circuit that actually has a little potentiometer on it. Right there it is. And that little dial there basically controls the level of, or the ratio of greens to red. And so I can turn those way down, so maybe like 1 out of every 10 turns red, or I can turn it up so maybe 1 out of every 4 or 3 turn red. Just depends on how much, fun we want to have. And so the way it works is every train, when it goes to leave their area of switching, will push that yellow button, and that circuit will decide if there's either no problems with the train or there's a problem with the train. So if I push this, okay, there you can see that one actually went right on the first try. Otherwise, so you can see how this one's set pretty high here. I'll probably tune it down. There's actually one over here I have at the junction that's set to be a really low probability. You can see I can push it a lot. Oh, there you can see it was a red one, and then I pushed it back to green. Anyways, what'll happen is if you get a red light, you reach underneath here and you grab a card off the top of this pile and you read what the card says. And in this case, this one says there's brake failure, and there's some instructions on what to do. And then the way you know what car it's assigned to, and this was an afterthought, is I just wrote a number on the back. So you flip it over and you count from your locomotive back 6 cars, and it's the 6th car of the train. Now, if you have a 4-car train, what you do is you just count back 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go back up to the front and go 5, 6. So this is actually the 2nd car of a 4-car train. What you do is you place this card, for example, if this was the car that had the problem, you place this card in the pocket, and what just sticks out is just what happened to the car. So what it is, depending on what you have, now this one says it was a brake failure, and it says forward to the nearest siding for repair in place. So this is where those sidings, like down here at the junction, will come in handy, because if you get one of these, so eventually one of these things I'm calling the car inspector will be down here. I'm gonna have one down here. Then you would have to spot this car in one of those tracks down there. If you're up at Clifftop, of course, you could basically just move it to the car shop. If you're maybe at the junction up here, you may have to set that out on one of these other sidings. And I believe it says that the car to be moved to the nearest siding, do not ascend or descend the switchback. The car may be moved while coupled to other cars if near the car shop. So you can see there's some instructions. And I just sat down and had some fun with these and made all kinds of different situations here, like, this one here is just a routine maintenance car. So what it's saying is that if you get this one, nothing's wrong with the car. It just means that it has to go in for maintenance. So you can actually use it, complete that run, but then you put this card in the pocket and you have to set it out at the car shop there. What I like about this is it puts the car shop into use throughout the session, because what will happen is every car that gets a defect will be at the shop here or at the shop in Landisburg or at the small machine shop down in Sewell, and they'll stay there the whole session. They can't be used if they've got a card in them that says they can't be used, if that makes any sense. Between sessions, all those problems are fixed. I pulled these cards out of the pocket. Now those cars will be picked up at the beginning of the session and put back into operation, and new cars will then be cycled into those to those shops to be repaired. What this does is it kind of takes out the fact that you're going to just come in here and load 6 cars or 7 cars or 8 cars, go dump them, come back, load them, go dump them, because every time you come up here, after you load them, you got to go through the, see there, that was green, so that means that train could leave here fine. There's nothing wrong with it. After you pass through the junction, you hit that one, that's green, there's nothing wrong with it. You'll go down to the switchback, push it. Now you might get flagged here that maybe during that run, maybe something happened with a coupler and it can't be used anymore. So then you have to cut that car out, put it on a siding, and then you can continue on down to finish your run. Now here at the junction, I've got a couple of cards here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna have a little box right here that I'm gonna build. I'm also gonna have a couple card boxes, really thin ones here, in case cars have to be set out on one of these tracks. You know, sometimes trains come up here and they may have a car bound for Clifftop. They may temporarily set it out here for the Clifftop crew to get and then continue on their way. So it'd be nice to have a box here for cars to be picked up at. Now I'm going to do a separate video on operations. We'll actually run through some operation and how I plan on operating it for both a solo operation and for a multi-person operation. Kind of go over and look at how Mine 7 area is working out here too. Now there will be a curtain down here, a curtain here, and this actually has the different box. The box up here had to be a full width shelf, and then it has the card box underneath here. These are just some little finger cutouts to make these easier to grab. Here's some more situation cars, because there will be an inspector circuit here that when a train's done switching, they'll have to hit that, and then they'll draw a card and, you know, read what it says here. Oh, that's another routine maintenance. Here's a common one. I have a lot of door failures. There's a couple humorous ones in there, but not too many. I don't want to have too much corny stuff going on, but there's some fun ones in there. It's really moving along. Things have really changed in 3 years here. So anyways, thanks for watching these updates. Now that's winter and modeling season has begun, I'll probably be doing more work down here and getting more videos out, hopefully. Thanks again for watching.